Now, dozens of delegates from multiple nations walked out en masse of the UN General Assembly Hall today as the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu began his speech, echoing global outrage over the devastating impact of Israel's action on civilians in Gaza. The U.S. delegation remained seated, reflecting its continued support for Israel amidst global criticism. Despite the walkout, Netanyahu delivered a combative address, asserting Israel's right to defend itself against Hamas and emphasizing his determination to, quote, finish the job, unquote, against the military group. Listen.
Please, order in the hall. Please, order in the hall.
Mr. President, the families of our dear hostages languishing in the dungeons of Gaza, ladies and gentlemen, last year I stood at this podium and I showed this map. It shows the curse of Iran's terror axis. This axis threatened the peace of the entire world. It threatened the stability of our region and the very existence of my country, Israel. Iran was rapidly developing a massive nuclear weapons program and a massive ballistic missile program. These were meant not only to destroy Israel, they were meant also to threaten the United States and blackmail nations everywhere. From Gaza, Yahya Sinwar dispatched waves of Hamas terrorists. They stormed into Israel on October 7th and committed acts of unspeakable savagery.
Well, that's the Israeli Prime Minister. And Netanyahu, we know, is facing accusations of war crimes and increase in international isolation, with several Western countries recently recognizing the Palestinian state. The UN General Assembly debate highlights tension between Israel's security concerns and international calls for peace, ceasefire, and recognition of Palestine and their statehood. But let's explore these issues emerging from the UN General Assembly. Join us now is Professor Daniel Dramani. He is Associate Professor at the Legon Center for International Affairs and Diplomacy. We appreciate your time here on The Pulse. Also joining me is International Relations Expert Dr. Ishmael Hovo. We appreciate your time here on The Pulse. I'll start with you, just your initial reaction to what we saw play out at the UN General Assembly. Professor Dramani, I'll start with your reaction. What is this telling?
It's a clear indication that the UN system or the global, quite a number of countries are not happy with Israel, and they have really shown it through the form of what? Walkout. And I'm sure that that is a very strong protest to the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, that what the actions you are taking in Gaza are over the board. You have exercised so much reprisal attack. We don't even know the word to use, whether this time it has something to do with the October 7th attack, because I think Israel has gone far and far and far. And that is why most of these delegates or countries decided to walk out of his speech.
Benjamin argues that Israel has the right to protect itself and that it is doing exactly that with this war against Gaza. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, the right to self-defense or right to protect the state of Israel is a right that is undeniable. That is right. But you see, the issue of, yes, Hamas did unthinkable acts. Hamas actually murdered Israelis. No two ways about that in October 7, 2023. That has been done. Israel went after the leaders of Hamas and virtually almost all the top leaders, commanders, and political bureau from all these areas within Gaza and outside Gaza. Most of them have been eliminated. Several thousands of civilians have been massacred. All these things are in the name of what? Self-defense. And I think that is overstressed. I think Israel, a time has come that there's the need for us to experience a ceasefire, because the level of attack, I think, is too much. Almost 2 years of fighting. And right now, the new policy they have is that Gaza City is the stronghold of Hamas, and the whole Gaza City will be reduced to rubble. And that is exactly what it's doing. I think that Israel has gone far too much, even though they have the right to defend themselves. But the right has been overstressed and over the board. They have gone too far.
But Benjamin tells us that they're still going to go on, and according to him, he's going to finish the job. That's his exact quote. He's going to finish the job. And what is this telling of what we should expect in coming days and the international implications, really?
Yeah, finish the job here simply means is that I think Israel have a very straightforward that Gaza will no longer be an area that will be habitable for the Palestinian people. Well, I know that they are targeting Gaza City. Once they are able to take out Gaza City, the next will be central Gaza. Khan Yunis area, they will ask them to also move. And once they succeed, the last port will be the southern Gaza, that is Rafah. They may force them, and eventually they'll find themselves in what, Egypt, and that will be the end of Gaza. I think that is the long term. So this particular fight is not going to end. And once they even chase them, there's also another aspect of it. Gaza attack, that's fine. There's even a plan to annex West Bank, which Netanyahu has made it very clear. His cabinet has given a signal that they are going to pursue. So eventually what is simply saying is that the way we will finish the attack on Hamas is to make sure that there's nothing called Palestine. I think that is that is where they are going. They will chase them out of their land, just as it happened in the years where many of them left for Jordan and never returned. That is how it's going to be. And that is his definition of finish the job. So it will take quite a long time. So, and that is why countries across countries in the, have expressed a lot of sentiment. They have opposed it. And if we can get a country like United Kingdom of all, that is the root. UK play a very key role in the creation of Israel. So going to the Balfour Declaration, that is, but today, United Kingdom has made a U-turn. Enough of our support for Israel. So it's a clear indication that Netanyahu is losing the grounds, but as he said it, he's not bothered. He's not bothered. And I think the biggest country that can bring Netanyahu to order is United States of America.
And that brings me to my next question, really, because we saw that the U.S. delegates, they sat through his speech declaring the U.S. support for Benjamin Netanyahu. What is that telling, really, of what the implications will be moving forward, knowing that Israel has the backing of the U.S.?
Yeah, as long as the United States, which currently act more or less as a superpower, I think Netanyahu will continue to go by that tangent of defiance against all odds and will continue to do all this kind of violence upon violence and may move them. Even though he has said that, he made a very interesting statement that Israel is not committing genocide. Because if you're committing genocide, you will not tell the people that leave. I'm giving you 10 days to leave. So it means that they have pre-informed them. But it's settled gradually. You are finishing all their buildings, schools, hospitals, all the housing and everything. So it is not far from being a genocide. It's a very systematic one. Possibly they are doing it with some human face, but that is the same thing. At the end of the day, there will be nothing like Gaza. And all this thing, Israel is able to do it because of the strong support of the United States of America. And that's why he praised Donald Trump as a strong leader, as the right leader. Because once he gets the backing of Donald Trump, I think he will continue the same tangent. Yes.
Prof, stay with me. I'll come back to you for some more reaction. But let me bring in Dr. Ishmael Hovo, who's also joining the conversation. Doc, I would like to start with your initial reaction. We're seeing other delegates walk out from that UN General Assembly when Netanyahu was delivering his speech. Your reaction?
Thank you, and good afternoon to you yourself and your viewers. Good afternoon to Prof too. I think that generally it's just the general growing protest and about what Netanyahu and Israel is doing in Gaza. So as you see them walk out, they are just using the UN forum to demonstrate their displeasure about the continuous bombardment of women, children, hospitals, schools, and other non-military facilities in Gaza. But it also represents, it reflects the limits of the UN, particularly the General Assembly, and the whole structure of the UN, in the sense that in as much as all these nations want the war to end, because of the particular composition of the Security Council, they were left with no choice but just to walk out of the speech. But then again, you see that the largest supporter still remains there, to offer the symbolic support to Netanyahu. So far,
with the U.S. siding with Israel, will there be any end in sight to this war, really?
Once the U.S. remain on their side and given the military might, the economic might of the U.S., they will continue to do what they want to do. But you see that presents a challenge to them, even in the long term, in building a safe and secure Israel. You will not be able to tell a child whose mother you killed with a bomb that child and Israelis should live in peace. So the more you try to defeat the terrorists with bombing, the more terrorists you create for the future. That's the other side of this kind of posture. Because fine, there was October 7th, there was hostages that you need to release, but then there's also the belief that a negotiated settlement could bring those out those hostages. You cannot say that the Palestinians do not have the right to exist, or you want to uproot Hamas at all costs. In fact, we have actually dealt a heavy blow to Hamas. It will take them years to even recover. And you have one of the most elaborate security networks in that region to continue to take down Hamas leaders without the kind of war that we are currently pursuing. So virtually, it's like once the United States is there, Israel will continue to do what they are doing, and because now they even go and include other countries that are trying to mediate in the conflict. That's becoming dangerous for all of us. So, for instance, when you attack a hotel in Qatar, and assuming Qatar also decided to retaliate, you attack other territories, all those nations decided that we will retaliate. That means that the whole region will be in turmoil. So, at some point, Netanyahu would have to realize that this conflict have to come to a negotiated end. But then again, the U.S. is in support. So it will continue. We don't see an end to it, but we all pray that it comes to an end very soon before it degenerates into a bigger regional war that virtually will affect some of us who are far away, rely on petrol and other things from that region.
And this is worrying, really, especially because we're hearing from Netanyahu tell us that he will finish the job. And he's making that defense, really, that they're not committing genocide because he gave individuals and residents in Gaza the opportunity to evacuate. Is that an option that we can explore?
The point is that even if you talk to Hamas, they will say they are not terrorists. Is that not the case? So you don't expect him to say that he is committing war crimes or he is committing genocide. The fact that you give leaflets to people to leave an area and they will return to come and find their buildings in rambles, and virtually they may not even return because the state at which you leave that area after the bombardment will be uninhabitable. So how will you then say that this is not war crimes or this is not a crime against humanity? You are bombing areas where people are seeking shelter. The very people you say go and seek shelter, sometimes they are in refugee camps, and then you bomb them. So I think that the whole bit lie on the man Netanyahu, who before this war, if you watch the political terrain in Israel, he has so much domestic issues. He has court issues to attend to. And for him, this war has become a political lifeline. So his continuous stay in office as a prime minister of Israel depends on this war. So part of the continuous position of Netanyahu depends on his own political survival. So as it is, we can't say that we are seeing children being killed, we are seeing women being killed, we are seeing people starving to death. And we want to say that, well, because I give them a leaflet that they should leave, that doesn't constitute any war crime. Then everybody can do same and say there's no war crime. There are people who have been put on trial for lesser offenses than these. So why will you still insist that it's no war crime? But then again, you have the backing of the largest military in the world. You have the backing of the largest economy in the world. If you have such backing in this very international system, you can do whatever you like. And so that the more he continues to do that, the more he undermines the very podium he goes to sit and speak. Because that podium is supposed to be a podium reserved for people who want the world united in seeking solutions. But if you are somebody who believes that might can solve all the solutions, then that forum, that podium is actually the wrong place to be.
And just yesterday, we heard from our president, John Dramani Mahama, recognize that there's a need for Palestine to be recognized as a state. And that raised questions, really, just yesterday. Now that we're seeing the U.S. backing Israel, will that compromise our relationship with the U.S. and even Israel itself?
I'm not so sure about that. Of course, in as much as we are friends with you, we also have the right to pursue our independent foreign policy. In fact, when this October 7 happened, the first statement that was released by Ghana says that we sympathize with Israel and we acknowledge the right of Israel to self-defense. But the problem is that as this war progresses, we have found out that the right to self-defense will be overstretched to other areas. So even as we speak, we are still friends with Israel. We still have issues with Israel. We are very good partners, but the fact that you are going astray doesn't mean that we should not express our opinion or we should not express our disappointment as what we are doing. It is other than that, then we will say that any of our friends who attack other nations, let us keep quiet. You also recall that when Russia invaded Ukraine, we took a position. It doesn't mean that we don't like the Russians. It doesn't mean that we will not do business with the Russians. But on that particular issue, the state of Ghana disagree with the approach you are using. And it is right to do that. Ghana-Israeli relation will still continue. Ghana-US relation will still continue. In fact, we support them when we think that it is necessary to support them. And when we disagree, we are right to disagree. It doesn't necessarily mean that once the person is your friend, hook, line, and sinker, everything he says, everything is that you must support or you keep quiet. Keeping quiet is not going to be the best position for Ghana. In the face of babies dying, in the face of women dying, in the face of hospitals being bombarded, then you say that because you want to be neutral, you are keeping quiet. That would be negative neutrality. That's not the position of Ghana all these years. Our position has always been positive neutrality, which means that while you are playing roles to try and bring a conflict situation like this to an end, you are also free to make your opinion known on issues like this. Because this issue, the only way this Netanyahu will come to some resolution is if we have all the nation pushing the United States to try and put pressure on Netanyahu to come to the table. So I think that Ghana-US relation, Ghana-Israeli relation will still continue regardless of our position on this issue.
Dr.